Hello again, my name is Michael S Garner, and I am a writer, artist, and creator of an online comic book called Visions of the New. It's self-published, all done by me. And I like to give comic book-related movies and TV show reviews and just my opinions on certain things that are going on out there. And today we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard, episode 107, which premiered this past Thursday. I haven't done a review since the premiere episode, but I definitely had to do a review on this one just because I need to talk about this one. But I want to give you what I originally wrote down before I was going to, actually, before I saw that episode. I already had this plan to do a video about thus far what's been happening on Star Trek Picard. And then episode 107 premiered. And things kind of changed. Kind of changed for me, dramatically. But I'm going to give you what I was originally going to say anyway. Okay, I'm willing to accept the way that they're writing Star Trek now, because you need to change things as time goes on. But this ain't Star Trek. And that is not 7 of 9. I'm sorry. That is not 7 of 9. It is it's the actress, but it's not 7 of 9. And I kind of miss the episodic nature of Star Trek. This whole long-form storytelling, like with the whole arching plot going throughout the whole series. It's nice, but I do miss the episodic nature of Star Trek, the originals. I come to a conclusion that I guess because we're not on a starship in Star Trek Picard, I will accept all the one-liners and the sarcastic people. It does seem like it makes it even further away from what Star Trek really is when you do those one-liners and sarcastic people everywhere. Like, everybody's sarcastic. But I do love the cast of Star Trek Picard. I think I love every character. I love Raffi, I love Agnes, I love them all. I do enjoy them. Even the Romulans. I enjoy the Romulans. Speaking of Agnes, as soon as she got on the ship in the earlier episodes, the first thing I thought to myself is, she's evil. There's something wrong with her. Something's gonna happen. And lo and behold, that's kind of what happened. In a way, it's a little bit reminiscent of the Titans TV show for me right now, where sometimes during the Titan TV show, it seems like they're just saying swears and saying funny comments to be edgy and to be quote-unquote fun. But like I said with Star Trek Discovery, when I first saw it, I love the fact that they're giving the Star Trek TV shows this big of a budget. Not that back in the days of Next Generation, DS9 and Voyager, that they didn't have a budget, but they didn't have the capabilities to do what they have now. We can do almost anything with like space effects and, and all these different worlds and everything like that and all these aliens. So that's a little bit refreshing. It's kind of like watching a movie, but not quite. But the special effects are they're still there, and it baffles my mind when I watch most of it. I just wish that the stories were a little bit deeper. It just seems to be very surfacey so far, and like I said, it just doesn't feel like Star Trek or specifically Star Trek: The Next Generation at this moment. And the fact that they don't have any type of a deepness to them, throughout the series, the thing that it seems like, it's like everything's kind of on the nose. You know what's going to happen each time. One of my favorite YouTubers is Robert Meyer Burnett. And he is a huge fan of Star Trek, and I really appreciate that about him. He said something in one of his videos that I have basically been saying ever since I was a kid about Star Trek, but he said it in a more specific way. He said that Star Trek is not about a future dystopian society. And I could not agree more with that. When I was a kid, I always used to have to explain to people that Star Trek is basically us in the future. But what if we've solved most of the problems? What if we solved wars? What if we solved hunger? What if we solved climate change? What if we solved all those things? And this is way, 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 way back to the original Kirk days. But what if that has already been solved? And yeah, there are conflicts and everything. There are personal issues with people. And there are still things out there like kind of wars and everything like that. But it wasn't to the scale that it was for at least humans. And it was more of a bright version of the future, or at least it was a more positive version of the future. And that's what I appreciated about Star Trek above all other science fiction, because most science fiction always was about a bleak society, was about a war happened, or we're at the thresholds of humanity being destroyed. And Star Trek was never about that. And Picard and Discovery seem to have gone towards the more dystopian a little bit, They have the positive nature in it, and they do have the Star Trek. I do believe they do have the Star Trek Foundation in there, but it's just like that was the one thing that's always bothered me thus far, even about Star Trek Picard. But again, we are not on a starship. I just have to keep saying that we're not on a starship. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a ship with Picard and his new crew and everything like that, but that is not a starship by any means whatsoever. We're basically in the blackness of space, dealing with all these different things. And basically, that's what I was going to say thus far about Star Trek Picard, until this episode aired. And I went, whoa. And it's not like this episode's like gangbusters or anything like that. It's not like, oh, explosions happen everywhere and like a mind molding. But it just, this episode solidified what they've been basically trying to do. And that's the kind of thing that I kind of feel bad about watching TV series nowadays, is that everybody kind of judges the individual episode as the whole of the series. And they think that that's the only thing that's going to happen. And I kind of feel bad about that, because I knew I was just waiting for certain things to happen with Star Trek Picard that will explain a lot of things that have been going on, instead of my assumptions taking over, which I think a lot of people do. But this episode, I knew that Deanna and Riker were coming in this episode for a while, but I didn't know that it would solidify the world of Star Trek Picard so much for me. Seeing them two on screen again, and I thought that they even did like a really good acting job, each one of them. Granted, Deanna's been doing voiceover work since Gargoyles, but I really appreciated this episode a lot, because having them there, it felt like we were back on Star Trek Next Generation, and knowing their background, even their kid, even their daughter, who I thought did a fantastic job in this episode. It brought everything full circle for me. I don't know if other people have had this like little bit of like, oh my God, this episode was great, but for me, it brought me back to my childhood. It brought me back to Next Generation, and made me forget about the Next Generation movies. But I can't even explain how much this episode. If you haven't watched it. If you haven't watched it, you shouldn't be watching this video, by the way. This episode, the things that I just want to say about it was right away when Picard and oh my God, Daj, the android girl, when they beamed down to the planet, I kept going, oh my God, it's another forest planet. Ever since like they did Star Trek Generations, where they had Kirk basically living out his retirement on a log cabin in the middle of the woods, I was like, what? Okay, fine. All right, maybe that's the reason why that's what he wants to do with his life. But I was like, oh, come on. So Deanna and Riker are going to be on this planet, and they're going to be in a nice little farmhouse, and this is how they're going to retire? Okay, here we go again. So it just seems to be repeating itself. And when they introduced the little girl, I was like, oh, God, a little Lord of the Flies girl with a little bow and arrow. But she became such a grounding effect for this, and such a connection between her and Daj. I felt it. I thought it was real. I thought they did a great job of it. And like I said, that girl, I gotta find her name. I'll probably put it on the screen here after I do the research of her. See, it'll be right there. That's her name. I thought she did a great job, and it made you actually think from the perspective of Daj, how everything has been going, and her perspective and the reason why she's so upset and everything like that, which you should know. But having Deanna there, which purposely he brought her there to see Deanna and Riker, because obviously Deanna is a Beta Z, and she can actually read the her emotions, and she read nothing. So we know, no matter what, she's a synth, and synthetic android. And Deanna just did such a great job in the fact that they explained the fact that her and Riker did have a son, and he had passed away because of certain reasons. And I was like, oh my God, I feel for these people. I just love this. I can't explain it. I just say, watch this episode, and it may bring you back to the Star Trek The Next Generation days, because it did for me. And don't judge it right away. Just sit back and take it in. That's what I had to do, because I sat there and I was actually working on something when I watched this episode. And as soon as like Deanna started to talk, I was in, and I loved it. One thing that I said about the farmhouse and everything like that, I was like, oh God, we're gonna go to the farmhouse and everything like that. The thing that took me out of that right away was when Picard was talking to Riker, and I can't remember exactly what Picard said, But Riker was like, well, should we be concerned that somebody's coming? So he told the house to put on the shields and to scan the area. And I'm like, yes, that's what he should do. He was number one, and then he was his own captain after a while. But that's what he should do. That should be one of his first responses: protect everybody. And the fact that he had the house on lockdown too, I love that, because the one thing I kept thinking about Star Trek Picard is that, like, when he's on his vineyard and everything like that, I'm like, is there any protections here or anything like that? Other than your two Romulans caretakers, is there any protection? Granted, you're on Earth and you shouldn't have to worry about that, but we did have a lot of fights with a lot of Romulans and since that happened, so. But yeah, I really love that fact, and it grounded it. And throughout the whole episode, I was just taken in, and I loved it. So that's basically what I just want to say about it, and I don't want to go into any more details, but my mind has been changed about Picard. Not that I hated it at all, but I was just like waiting for that thing to happen, and this is what happened. And it just solidified the whole series for me thus far. And I can't wait to see what happens, and I can't wait to see for the redemption of 7 of 9, because my opinion on 7 of 9 was just the fact that, why is she a vigilante? Why is she going around shooting with her guns? What's going on here? That part kind of like threw me off a little bit, and it looks like the next episode we're going to see something monumental with her and see exactly how this really connects. So, once again, my name is Michael S. Garner. I do a self-published comic book called Visions of the New. You can check it at visionnew.com. There hasn't been an issue out in a very long time. And one day I will put out more issues, but if you want to look at it for now, you can. We'll be switching to a new service soon. And that's my review of Star Trek Picard, episode 107. Thumbs up. Loved it. Loved it. If you guys are not watching the series, I hope you do consider watching the series now. Like I said, they've done a great job, and it's worth paying for the CBS All Access for that. Because I did. Basically just for Picard. Not for Discovery. For Picard. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great day.